Welcome to Women Talking Soccer. I'm your host, Carrie Taylor. The goal of this podcast is to amplify the voices of all women who love the beautiful game. Whether you're on the field, cheering from the stands, work in the business, want to be in the business, or are a passionate change maker, your voice is important. This podcast is presented by Women in Soccer. Women in Soccer is a network of women and allies involved in our favorite sport. You can join Women in Soccer for free online at womeninsoccer.org. And today we are talking to Pip Penman, and I'm so excited to have you on. I would love to have you tell the listeners about your background and how you got into the game and just, a little bit about yourself.
Great, thanks, Carrie. I'm super excited to be on the podcast. My real name's Catherine, but Carrie introduced me as Pip because I always go by Pip because I'm an identical twin, but I was always slightly shorter and got called Pipsqueak for my whole life. So at 25, I go by Pip predominantly. My background, I'm from a wee town outside Edinburgh called Kirkcaldy, Scotland, in case you didn't get that accent. My background is I just, love sports my entire life. I came to be involved in soccer in general, I guess, through having two older brothers and my twin sister, as well as lots of male cousins. And we all just sort of played soccer together. It's kind of great to think about how my family never gendered what we did. There was only two, women, two girls, and like nothing was ever gendered. We all played together. And soccer was a massive part of my life growing up. And if anything, I think it's nice because I always felt like my brothers were sort of proud to have their sisters be the only girls on the pitch. So that was sort of my introduction to the game, and just being a large facet of my childhood, to be honest.
Well, thank you for telling us about your childhood a bit. How growing up not in the U.S., what are some of the differences, related to soccer that you've maybe experienced? Can you kind of talk about maybe some challenges that you've either had at home or here in the U.S., or different challenges that you might see people encounter with soccer?
Yeah, definitely. I think, one of the first challenges, and I can still vividly remember it, with soccer was, growing up in primary school, in high school, it'd been the same in primary school. Girls did dance, boys did football, soccer, and that was how it was. And I remember my twin and I, because we had this background of growing up with our brothers and our cousins playing soccer and loving it, we get to high school and there was no option not to play soccer. You were going to do dance if you were a girl. So Liv and I, at like 12 years old, our first year in high school, we just simply refused, and we told the gym teachers that we just weren't doing that, and it caused a bit of a fuss that day because we it wasn't trying to be disruptive. We just truly didn't understand, if we both wanted to play soccer, why we were being put into a dance hall. So then we just kind of we were 12 years old. We couldn't name that as a social injustice and as a gender inequity, but it just felt wrong. So
Right.
that lesson, living, great thing having a twin sister. You've got a partner in crime your whole life. So her and I just sat on the gym floor and we refused to take part and dance.
You like had a
Until
sit in, like, no, I'm not gonna do this. I love that.
My first political lockdown at like 12 with my twin sister. We sat on the gym floor, and then they were like, "Yes, I'm calling your parents." So they called mum and dad, and my mum was like, "What? You weren't allowed to play soccer?" And we're like, "No." So it was hilarious because I think the school thought that we were going to be in trouble. Like, we're calling your parents for not participating. And then we spelled it out. We were like, "Mum, we think it's extremely unfair that girls who want to play soccer are being funneled into a dance hall. It just doesn't feel right." And she was like, "You're right. I think it's shocking the teachers made you do that." So it
Yeah.
caused a big fuss. It was funny because I guess, like, at the time, teachers probably just thought we were precocious wee rascals, but we just didn't know the word for it was actually we were feminists.
Right.
That's what's happening at that point. So there was a sit down and there was parents were called, and in the end, the fuss worked because we were on the soccer pitch the next day, and that was like a big deal. And I think I obviously can't speak to what it's like in America, the school systems, but yeah, sports was soccer in particular, super gendered, and it wasn't a space that girls were encouraged to be in. So first challenge sort of came in hard, and yeah, we protested and got on that soccer pitch.
I love that. I love that. And you and I are kind of different generations, and it makes me angry in a way to even hear that you had to go through that, because when I was coming through soccer, we kind of thought that those battles, we were fighting those battles and that things might change, but a lot of times there's the same challenges keep happening over and over and over again. And that kind of brings me into asking why you're involved with women in soccer, and can you share with the listeners what kind of pushed you to get involved with this group, and what your role is with women in soccer?
Yeah, absolutely. How I got involved is actually a funny story. I was finishing my degree, working part-time at NYU Athletics. That's where I was studying. And on my first day, I got to the coach's office, and then this magical moment happened. I heard across the dividing wall a Scottish accent, which in New York,
Oh.
it just doesn't happen. It's the first time I've heard that. I've lived here 2.5 years. So there's this magical Scottish accent across the coach's office at NYU. And anyway, so we went over and started talking to the Scottish man, Joe, who is the assistant coach to Kim Wyant,
Oh,
the
yeah.
first national team and first woman, I believe, to ever coach male college football, soccer. So anyway, we started talking, Joe and I, and we bonded over the homeland, Scotland, of course. And then, quite quickly, if you talk to me, it'll become apparent I'm just so passionate about women's sports and like developing women in that way. And he just said, you have to meet Kim Wyant. So he took me over and introduced me, and she's a legend. So that was kind of phenomenal. And she sort of asked what I was doing. I was finishing my degree. My degree is in literature, and with lots of creative projects and sort of political activism tied into it. It was a really diverse, unconventional degree, which was great. And she said, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know, but I'm just bouncing off the wall with enthusiasm about women's sports and social justice. And she just said, well, who else is bouncing off the wall with enthusiasm? Courtney Levinson, obviously the founder of Women in Soccer. So then, it all started with a Zoom call, and I got connected with Rachel, the managing director of Women in Soccer. And that came about with kind of magic link. And my role within the organization is I'm the content producer. So, the writing, get to interview great people like yourself, Carrie, and other, incredible women that we have involved with us, and just help with creative direction in that way. So it's, completely perfect for me, my involvement in this organization, to use my sort of writing background and my die-hard love of sports and channel that into a kind of social justice program. So that was how it came about.
So I learned something. I had no idea that you got brought into the fold through Kim, and I know Kim and have talked on webinars and interviewed her, and consider her a great colleague and friend. And it's so interesting when you get into conversations with women in the game. It's like everyone knows everyone, just maybe one step removed.
I'm not even remotely surprised that you know Kim also, because we keep having that joke. Women in soccer will always know someone that knows someone.
Yeah,
and it's absolutely true. So that was how we brought into the fold.
Yeah, no, that's a great story. I'm going to give Kim an email and say thank you for pushing Pip in this direction. It's awesome.
Thank you.
You mentioned just a second ago about your social justice and your interest in that, and your passion for that. How do you want to utilize that within women in soccer, and what are some things that you think are important where soccer can have an impact on social justice?
Absolutely. I guess one of the main things that excites me so much about Wiz is our core values and what they mean and what they speak to. And firstly, we have the access value being really important to us. It's free. All members, anyone who wants to be involved with this, can join for free. And I think access is a huge part of the problem of why in the US in particular we see soccer culture represented as if soccer lovers were a homogenous group. And that being white, straight, and affluent. And there's that saying, we need the US national team to look like America, and it's so true. So and even for myself here, I got to NYU on a scholarship, and from my background, that these kind of opportunities that have come of that would certainly not have been available to me without financial support. So firstly, I love that straight off the bat we take the financial obstacle away from women, which is a large puzzle. And then also inclusivity as a value runs through the core of WIS, through everything we do, and that's something that really resonates me. And I don't know, I'm trying just like just kind of in general the impact that can have in using it in soccer. For myself, I speak proudly as part of the LGBT community, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that pride only comes with outward vocal support, and the more we see that, the more others can feel the same, which is super important to me. And like with WIDS, a large part of what we talk about, and we like have it in capital letters because it's a statement. We say that we support all women,
Mm-hmm.
and we mean that. We're bringing together a group of people as well as allies, and we're all connected by our love of soccer. But the experience of all women and queer people are not the same, and there's specific challenges for all these different types of women. And if we talk, say, women of color, trans women right now, these are specific challenges that firstly need listened to, amplified, followed by like vocal actionable steps from cis allies like myself and cis white allies even. And that's something important, something that I really strive to do in my everyday life. And I think it's phenomenal that as an organization that revolves around soccer, we have a platform to implement those positive changes through a game that we love so much and that we can all agree is so rewarding and fun to be a part of. So yeah, I think that's something that's extremely important to me.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Your enthusiasm and your passion for women in soccer and what this organization is striving to do just like jumps through the camera. So it's so exciting to have that energy involved, and it's inspiring, honestly. You know, someone of my age who I feel like sometimes we keep having the same conversations, and sometimes you almost want to give up on trying to affect change. And then there's this bright light of Pip that comes in and is like, we can do this. Like, let's go. How do we get stuff done? So I just want to say thank you from me that your energy, helps to push me
No,
every,
thank you.
every
It's mutual.
day,
It's
every,
absolutely mutual.
every day. So, can you talk about maybe some of the programming and different things that women in soccer will, kind of spin into eventually? I mean, the podcast is one thing, getting people to sign up for the network, and you can sign up at womeninsoccer.org. But what are some of the long-term goals and plans for the organization?
Yeah, I think we have so many things in the works, and I think originally rolling out with the podcast and like also Coach the movie starring Tracy Ham is phenomenal to really highlight in such a powerful way the issues that women face and the issues that can be overcome when they're supported. And we've got lots of things in the works. There are going to be workshops where expert members and experts are brought into the fold. Again, to give free webinars to people about any kind of challenges, and we'll have that as a facet, and then also well-being and mental health is a facet that's important to everyone that's brought into this fold. So we have mindful Mondays as sort of part of the programming that we want to be expanded to all members. And yeah, just all sorts of different resources that are all tailored to any aspect of the game. If you're in WIS because you're a coach or a player, and you're working on the field, then we'll have lots of resources tailored specifically for you. But if you're here for any reason because you just love the game or love women's sports, there's also a lot of resources that will speak to you as a woman or a person who identifies as a woman or some other marginalized group. Our resources will speak to you. And I think the idea that we're bringing all these different kind of programs under one unified formal network is really important. And when people sort of ask me, why women in soccer and why should people join, like in a nutshell, it's the community. We say we're here to connect all people that love the beautiful game, and community as human beings across the board is our greatest asset.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's so special and it's so crucial at this point in time. So to have a safe space with women in soccer, specifically designed to empower all types of people, no matter what your goals are within the game, whether you want to work in it, you want to do professional development in a completely different sector, whatever your goals, or you just want to meet people that feel supported in a community, then this is a safe space for you. And I think the connection and the community facet of our programming is, one of the strongest elements.
Yeah. I think the key word that you had mentioned earlier was all. And, a lot of times women might feel like, oh, well, maybe I'm a fan, but I want to be in this community. Or maybe, I work in social media and I don't have a community of women involved in sport or soccer. So, for me, it's very exciting to see the fact that this isn't a coaching organization. This isn't just a former players organization. You don't have to have played the game. You can just love the game and, come join in the fun and learn and meet people and network and get inspired when you're, maybe having a bad day. The Mindful Mondays, I feel like are going to be an amazing aspect of just, being able to connect with people from all across the country, maybe all across the world if we start hitting international bases. And that's something that I think is a bit new and different, at least from some organizations that maybe I've seen in the past.
I'm glad you said it like that. Yeah. Like we support all women, it speaks to, like I touched upon, like diverse demographics of people, of women, but then also that all speaks to like diverse like interests in the game and the way you're connected to it. So absolutely, it's not just a coaching thing. It can be whatever you want it to be, and whatever angle you come connected to soccer, we're absolutely catering to support you. So yeah, when we say all, we mean all, which is why I think that idea is so special.
Yeah. Can you talk about maybe some of the founding members and kind of who's been involved on the ground level and maybe some of the partnerships that have been created thus far, just to give the listeners an idea of like where everyone's kind of coming from at the ground level?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's founded by Courtney Levinson, and she's the founder and the sort of passion house behind the project starting. And we had on the podcast earlier Rachel Lasala, who's our managing director, and that was sort of who I was brought into the fold with directly. And then we have like yourself, Carrie, and lots of different types of expert members that have been brought in. Like Danny is an amazing ally for women's soccer players. He's also part of the Black Coaches Federation. So incredible people like that. Also Yuandi. I also Aries Pickett, which we've been speaking to, which I've been speaking to, recently, and she's the head of HR for the NWSL. So and again, that sort of speaks to what we're talking about, the idea that it's like people's involvement in the game is actually really diverse. The collective of women behind women's soccer come from like coaches to marketers, activists to Maria Moran is a best-selling novelist.
Right.
There's a whole fold of different people that are actually involved in it. We share the common thread of loving the game, but there's loads of different expert members involved, which is why I think our content and where things are going to come from will be so strong. So yeah, and in terms of partners, I'm already, it's truly an honor and a privilege to be able to, talk to people and be involved and get insights into the organizations we're partnering. South Bronx United just had a fundraiser last night, so I was watching that, and we were partnering with them, and what phenomenal work they do for different communities that are under-resourced and under-supported, and they truly are life-changing. Like I encourage everyone to check out South Bronx United because the impact they have in the community through soccer. So yeah, our partnerships, and we have that on our website, and we encourage different partners to get involved if they feel like in any way they are determined to elevate the voices of women or support different marginalized groups through sports. It's likely they're a perfect fit for a WIS partner, and that's a kind of common thread that runs through all our partnerships. And it's so nice, we're an organization, but it's not a competitive space in any way. We truly seek to elevate all different organizations, so even people that are doing things with women's soccer in either a different area of America or slightly different, like we want to hear from you. We're just a sort of unifying like umbrella collective for the whole network of women that love soccer, but any different groups that are passionate about change and supporting women and using the game for positive means, are likely the perfect partner for us.
Yeah, I had a friend look at, I think, one of the women in soccer Instagram posts the other day, and you had highlighted the Lavender Legion supporters group from Louisville, and which is, they're a brand new NWSL team. And someone asked, well, why them? And I said, well, why not? Like, it's open to any supporters group. And the fact that, the inclusiveness, again, that it's, hey, you want to get involved, you want to meet other women, you want to join the network, and, eventually we'll have Slack channels and with different topics, and people can connect, as well as potential job boards, so that when people say, hey, I want to hire, do you have a recommendation for this job or that job, that, or if people are looking for a job, they can come into the Women in Soccer platform and find work, or find, someone in their city to go have, a beer with, to talk about soccer, or go watch a soccer game. And I think, as this grows, the exciting thing for me is it's almost like the possibilities are endless, and that's exciting, and that's much needed, and that feeling of connection is much needed, because there are so many women doing amazing things in the game, but a lot of times, for at least from my experience, people feel isolated or within their own silo, and they don't necessarily know who to reach out to if they have an issue with a job, or who to reach out to for advice. And that's again the beauty of this.
Absolutely. More.
So what advice would you give to a young person who is interested in, getting into the soccer space? What advice would you give to maybe someone, in college that's thinking about, you know, becoming like championing this network and organization, or becoming like Tracy Ham, who is a phenomenal college coach? What advice would you give to a young person kind of on that border of like being interested in getting involved?
Yeah, well, firstly, I'd say do it. But but secondly, I think, the most important thing that I say to anyone, but in particular girls and women who want to get involved in soccer and sports, is that the confidence and the lessons it will teach you, it sounds cliched, but we all know it as sports people. It truly transcends the field. And I think, from a young age, I started this podcast with that story about having to like really fight for my position with my twin to be on that male dominated soccer field, at the age of 12. But what that taught me and taught us as I stepped as a young girl onto the field is that I can be in that space, and I should feel valid and important in male dominated spaces. And, the fact that we have obstacles for women and girls not to get involved in soccer or in sports in general means that they, lots of the time miss out on that really valuable life lesson, the confidence it can give you by being involved in something physical, being involved in something that's connects you to a team. It's strategic and it's fast and it's rewarding, and there's ups and downs when play's not going well and you have to recover for that. All of those lessons like matter so much and feed into your ability as a person, and how much that can benefit you as a well-rounded person. And I think the secret is for women that I think it can involvement in soccer and sports teams can be the difference in you feeling like you should apply for that job despite you maybe not having every single criteria, because men have that confidence and they got it from somewhere. Like
Somewhere, yeah.
it speaks to the larger social conditioning that we face as women, like not being encouraged and told that like our right to be in male dominated spaces is valid and needed, and and crucial. So I think the fact that sports can do that in such an enjoyable, rewarding way is absolutely phenomenal. And I think I could say that more. So yeah, that's what I'd say to any young person wanting to get involved in the space. It will reward you so much and change your life in ways you didn't expect.
That's great advice, Pip. And in you referencing your feminist sit-in when you were 12 and just getting it done, it kind of ties into what one of our expert founders, Tracy Ham, kind of did through her coaching journey with her licensing challenges. And you referenced that, Coach the Movie. Can you talk a little bit more about what is Coach the Movie, and kind of give the theme of that, and as a voice, to kind of intrigue our listeners into maybe checking out the movie, because it's good.
Yeah, yeah, good is an understatement.
Yes.
It's phenomenal. It was actually my first introduction to Tracy Ham, who I now know who is like a colleague and part of this women's soccer team. But I was sent this movie sort of via Kim Wyant and Courtney, and I watched it, and I was truly blown away. It's an incredible, piece of work in itself as a movie, but at its core, it shows Tracy Ham pursuing, a top tier coaching license, which, so few women, I think it's 1% of women hold this license, which is truly phenomenal. That she went to Wales, from America to sit in a classroom with, I think, over 40 men to get this coaching license. And the movie highlights, in really quite incredible and painful ways, the like sometimes blatant bias and kind of disrespect for, Tracy's competence and abilities as a phenomenal coach and athlete herself. So it shows those, obstacles that she had to face as truly the only woman in that, on that program. And it's really inspiring. I think one of the things that came from the movie, whether you want to be a coach or pursue like professional sports in the way that Tracy Ham did, is one thing, but it really relates universally to us as women, because we painfully do all recognize ourselves in those spaces where we feel like we've been undermined or not respected or not listened to in a pursuit that we should really have had more support in. And I think, Tracy being one of, over 40 men on that program, Wes is trying to change.
Mhm.
If we have more women in these spaces, we have more women supporting each other, and that's basically what we want to see. Like, we show visibility through our resources of these kind of issues, and then we bring in experts just like Tracy Ann to speak directly into how she is passionate about elevating other women in these spaces, so that it's not a case of 1% of women holding these licenses. And
Right.
yeah, that's why I'd recommend everyone watch it. It's on womeninsoccer.org, and yeah, it's truly a phenomenal investment of your time, I can promise.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. Again, it's Coach the Movie. And as Pip said, it's on the womeninsoccer.org website. It is, it really, to me, outlines a lot of the unconscious biases that, sometimes men don't know that they're doing. And again, that's part of this educational process that we as women and the male allies in the space, kind of need to be reminded of sometimes.
Totally. So lots of men in like the different events we've run so far, as we've developed Wiz and brought it to this point, we see like quite often we get asked by men who are like, they're eager to elevate the women's game, but they truly don't know the ways in which they unconsciously, bias these problems, and they want to know how they can do better. And that's absolutely fine. Like, Wiz is here to meet everyone where they are, no matter what like level you are on your journey to developing and being able to like basically remove all these systemic problems. We'll meet you where you are. We're just happy that you want to be involved in such a positive project. So male allies are absolutely welcome, and it's so encouraged, and such a crucial facet of the problem that men, take the time to listen and learn the ways that they can remove these obstacles, because things aren't going to change unless there's, an active like, okay, I'm going to learn these ways. And lots of time we hear from men like, again, there's no malicious intent, but they might be
Right.
like, truly, I didn't know that was in some way undermining, and that is fine. This network will meet everyone where they are, and we'll work with you so that we can all do better and we can all enjoy a better soccer culture, essentially.
Yes, absolutely. So, as we start to wrap up, I'm going to ask you a couple of just basic questions as far as that tells me a little bit about you. So, do you have a favorite quote or anything that like drives you to that gets you out of bed in the morning, or if you're feeling down, like you look at for that inspiration?
Okay, can I'll go two, because I've just thought of
Yeah.
two suddenly.
Yeah.
The first one is heavier, and we need to sort of lean into it. And it's in a book called Black Feminism, and it's about part of the Convy River Collective, and it highlights different essays from Black feminist authors. And essentially, it's, if Black queer women were free, it would mean that everyone else was free. And I think that's like something that I lean into when we think of like the intersections of different problems, and how much it's crucial for everyone if we really vocally work to undo all these kind of systemic problems. So that's my sort of heavier motivational quote that I like to think about and apply to everything I'm thinking of. But something like lighter, more apt, which, and I'm so pleased I actually got to put it on the website when we're designing it. It's from Abby Wambach's book Wolfpack,
Mhm.
and she says, "I've never scored a goal in my life without getting a pass from someone else." And I think that's just so perfect and really sums up what the Wiz Network is doing. great things happen when people band together. And I think that, as a soccer quote, I feel like it's apt to share.
Yeah, those are both powerful ones. The first one actually gave me chills. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That I hadn't heard that, and that was very impactful. Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, the quote is, if Black queer women were free, it would mean that everyone else would be free. And it's in a book called Black Feminism, and it talks about the Columbia River Collective, and it's different voices talking about like Black feminist essays, and it's a really impactful, brilliant book.
Well, on the book note, do you have any book recommendations? And you can't recommend that book because you just gave it a plug. so now you got to think of another book that you've been reading that you highly recommend.
Well, I guess we're on a bit of a theme, but the book that I finished yesterday, so I'll just tell you, it's called Zami by Audre Lorde, and I loved it especially because I'm Scottish, so all books with a very New Yorky feel I adore, and it's absolutely gives you the atmosphere of New York, which is brilliant, and then just like cacophony of different things that are always happening on the streets. I really felt that from the book, but ultimately, it's heartbreaking at times and a powerful read because Audre Lorde writes a lot. It's semi-autobiographical, and she talks a lot about her experiences as a Black queer woman, and she sort of concludes the book as well at the end with like, no one's experience is the same actually, and she sort of talks about that she did though feel so much love and support within the community of women, and I think that's like a beautiful sentiment for the sort of overarching theme that like I want all of us to really, really look after each other and understand that like not everyone's experience is the same, but the more we do to help everyone with theirs, beautiful things will happen. So that was the book I've just finished, and phenomenal read, and that's Zami.
Well, Pip, awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to share your journey and to talk about women in soccer with the listeners. Again, this is Women Talking Soccer. I hope you enjoyed listening to Pip and got some inspiration from her energy and passion to connect, inspire, and empower women on and off the field. So Pip, thank you so much and have a great weekend.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for listening, everyone that gets involved. Yeah, good weekend to